Our hearts go out to everyone affected by the fires, and there are so many of you. Uh, and we are all feeling it. So much love for all of you. And I just love that so much of the community is coming together because I think that's what provides so much hope for everyone. But we've got a lot of questions today, so we're going to jump in.
Hi, guys. Yeah, I echo what Natasha said, and we're really grateful to have David Edwards here today. He's a PhD and the founder and CEO of Earthboundhomes, a custom home building company in Silicon Valley. He's also the founder of the Bay Area Building Science Collaborative, a building science educational non-for-profit centered in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he holds a master's and PhD in biochemistry from the University of California, San Diego. He's a certified green building professional and a member of the U.S. Green Building Council, Green Point Rater. The list goes on, but he is our guy to be able to chat with about the area. I have so many questions.
Before we jump in, I just want to preface this by saying, if you're able to provide unconditional love to your child, you are already succeeding as a parent. If you're even able to provide a semblance of normalcy to your child in these times, you are succeeding as a parent. And frankly, so many people out there have much bigger problems. So people may not be ready to hear all of the information here, and that's okay. And I encourage you not to listen to this until you're ready. Put it away. And you may not ever be, and you may not want to hear that. And that's completely okay. We just had a lot of questions for people who are interested. And I want to make sure to clarify that social toxins, meaning the worry, the fear, the stress of it all, can be worse than chemical ones. So don't feel bad if you're not ready to hear this. Just turn it off. And I encourage you to turn it off.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a million questions about, let's start with the air quality AQI score. Looks like it's great here. Is that something we should trust? Is that the quote unquote real situation people are asking, or does that not measure the fire toxins that are in the air?
So thank you for having me, you guys. My heart goes out to everybody that's dealing with this. I remember when I was young, living in San Luis Obispo, a raging fire, the biggest we'd ever had, came right across the street from my house. And the terror of seeing the mountains above you on fire was amazing. And I didn't obviously know much about what we're experiencing at that time. But I think that, your nose does a pretty good job of telling you what's around. So if you smell smoke, you should be wearing a mask. And you should think about this just like you thought about COVID, where a mask, specifically an N95 particulate mask, is going to be a good safety margin for protecting yourself and your family. Now, an N95 is a particulate mask. It is not an activated carbon mask. And activated carbon masks are responsible for getting rid of basically solvents and organic activated carbon and activated materials. So just because you have an N95 doesn't mean you're protected and doesn't mean your family's protected. So if you live near the fires and you're afraid of your house and what's in your house, those are real concerns if you're smelling smoke. So there's lots of different ways to deal with this. But the first thing you should be doing is what everybody up here when the fires were happening a few years ago is, if you don't live in what's called a passive house, so an airtight house, and you're getting smoke smell inside your house, then you should keep your windows and doors closed and then tape them. Passive house is a method that we build most of our houses to, and it is essentially an airtight house. And what you want to recreate now, even if you don't have that airtight house, is something that keeps as much of the outside air outside, and then you want to filter your inside air. So I'm imagining that air filters are pretty short supply up there right now, or down there right now.
Yeah, they are.
And so anything you can do to get an air filter, Amazon, Walmart, whatever, if those are places that you go, buy filters and run them. You want a higher MERV, MERV. So a MERV rating is how fine the particles are. So a low MERV is going to have big holes, and a high MERV is going to have very small holes. So HEPA is like a MERV 21 filter. You don't need that. If you can get a MERV 13 or a MERV 15 for an air filter system, whatever air filter system that is, I would strongly recommend that you
do all these filters have MERV systems like ratings on them? Okay.
They should. If it's a quality filtration system, it will have a MERV rating on it. So here's what you need to know is at the beginning of this, when the smoke is really, really bad, you need to just get as much as you can out as quickly as you can. But the problem is that the big stuff, the big particles that would be caught in a MERV 8 or a MERV 10 are not the ones that are most problematic for you health-wise. So that's the PM 2.5. And those are the ones that you really need to be concerned about. The other ones are making a mess of your house, but they're not causing you to be sick. So
right, because most of us don't smell smoke in the immediate surrounding areas at the moment. I think I can speak to that because I'm here.
Emily's in a red flag warning area as of right now. She was in a evacuated area, and then that got lifted.
Okay. So I would just start with the air filtration system. If you can get access to air filtration systems and you do smell smoke, then you want to consider what are called activated carbon filters. And an activated carbon filter is to deal with those VOCs and the other organics that are not ash. They're actually active molecules. The problem with them is that if they are their primary filtration system, they will clog up very, very quickly and they will be non-functional, right?
That's the question we've been getting, that their air filters that they've been running on high are already clogged.
Yeah. So honestly, an air filter, the filtration unit with the motor and the fan, that will last a long time. The filters will not last a long time. And you want to be buying filters, and you can buy filters from anywhere. Remember this, the bigger the filter, the more air it can process at the same time. So a big obnoxious air filtration system is probably your best solution right now. And the bigger filter you can, make sure you get that, but get replacement filters because you want to be
keep replacing them. Like how often? Because they're normally 6 months, right?
6 months to a year, it depends.
Yeah, this isn't normal, right? Like, I mean, it depends. You open the filter and look at it, and if it's clogged, if it's covered in debris, then you replace it and you throw that away.
Is this bad advice? Because some people had messaged saying that they don't have replacement filters, so I told them to vacuum the filters.
You can do that.
Okay.
Sure, that's a solution. If you can't,
are we going to have to like throw out our vacuums? Maybe that's a stupid question.
So a vacuum. So it's interesting. So we used to put in a lot of whole house vacuums, and the benefit of a whole house vacuum is that what you suck out of the house gets blown outside. Most vacuums are not like that. Most vacuum is what you suck off of whatever it is that goes through a bag and then gets blown back into your house. Right. That's not really very helpful. Right? So if we're going to be vacuuming out our filters, take it outside. If you don't have a whole house vacuum, take it outside, vacuum it outside, leave the vacuum outside, and then bring the filter back inside.
Gotcha. Okay. That is helpful. So if, is there any filters, Natasha, that you want to bring up, air purifiers that make sense?
What I personally have is the IQ Air multi-gas. And that's what I have. They're large and they're loud when you keep them on the highest level of 6. And Air Doctor I found was also good, and Austin Air. But they all three of those had activated carbon filters and HEPA, and then they had both.
And then how long do you think the toxins stay in the air? Can we go back? People are asking about their furniture and stuff. If they live in the evacuated areas, and they're coming back.
Or the homes that survived in the areas, or neighboring.
Or homes that were sprayed with flame retardants, things like that. Yeah.
Good news and bad news. So flame retardants are not toxic. It's largely clays and some innocuous chemicals. So you don't need to worry about the FOS, I can't remember, the phosgren or something like that. That's actually really good news because they're spraying that all over everything. And If that's not good, like a lot of people are going to have a lot of cleanup. The bad part is PM 2.5 can stay airborne for months. If you have a house that's filled with ash and you didn't lose your house, congratulations. Consider yourself unbelievably lucky. But the cleanup has to start. So you can vacuum. The fire has passed. I mean, honestly, like going out and vacuuming your furniture now, if the fire's still around and dropping stuff all over the place, probably not a very effective use of your time. Like go someplace far away. And I think the real challenge is the people who don't have the means to go someplace else. That's who we really need to be thinking about. Like, obviously, if you're in it, you need to be thinking about your family. But there's a lot of people who don't have, millions of dollars that have houses on the beach that can't afford to go stay in a hotel in San
That's
Diego
right.
or something, right?
That's right.
So we need to be thinking about those people, doing what we can for them. When the fires stop, which hopefully they will soon, we need to be vacuuming. Again, we should be thinking about how we're vacuuming. We should be thinking about the filtration of the vacuum, the furniture upholstery vacuums that spray water down, which will solidify some of the,
like those green guys or whatever.
You can think about it two way, right? Like the first way is that if you do it with a crappy one, it's not going to suck all that moisture out of the bag, but you will suspend that particulates in water and then pull it out of your furniture, which will get more of it out than just blowing it around your room again, right? So we need to be thinking about how we clean. My guess is that if you own a disaster restoration company and they have a lot of vacuums, it's probably a good resource to just call those guys. And not own, if you know of one, call those guys because they probably have all the equipment that'll kind of make it as effective as possible. My guess is that's going to be very, very difficult to do for the next, we're talking 15 or 20,000 homes already, right?
Yeah.
So my guess is those guys are going to be really, really busy. And it's honestly not safe right now. Most of these places that are still on fire, like, just stay away.
If you can. That's the hard part.
So going back to the air quality index, I think that's the biggest concern because it looks like when you look at, like, say, a purpleair.com, it says that it's green to the point like some of the scores are even like a 6 or a 10 or 20. Some of those numbers I haven't even really seen in LA that often.
Right. So the challenge with all air sensor equipment is it senses certain materials, certain compounds, whether it's carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, benzenes, pyrenes, PM 2.5, PM 10.0, like whatever it is. Like we have to think about that in respect to what it's doing. But it's also affecting airborne particulates only, not stuff that's already fallen down on the ground. And they're localized, right? It's not like it's every house. It's, every quarter mile, every half mile, whatever that is. And that's all affected by the winds and everything else. So yes, it's a great way to feel better about where you're at. But I wouldn't put all of my confidence in those.
That makes sense because, like, a lot of people are saying, like, it says it's green in their area, like, say, Culver City or,
Even here, like next to, where we are, it's green.
But or even in the South Bay, but there's ash on the ground and there's ash on the
all
playground.
over my roof. Like
Yeah.
but my indoor air thing says 0, and I don't know if I should trust that.
She's running 3 IQ airs in there, but yeah.
Yeah. So the same thing that makes your house energy inefficient is the same thing that lets in all those toxins into your air, into your house. That's why really focusing on sealing up the windows and the doors and then running those filters constantly. Have one point of entrance and exit from the house. Tape up everything else. Don't walk in the house. Don't open the windows. Like, the good quality, high efficiency homes have a system called an HRV, which stands for heat recovery ventilator. And that is essentially a system that's is perfect in these situations where it brings in outside air, it filters it, and then it pulls it inside the house. And then it takes stale inside air filled with cooking fumes and moisture from showers and things like that and pushes it outside, but it transfers the heat. So you're not freezing yourself out when you bring in fresh air outside, and you're not blowing warm conditioned air outside in the middle of the winter. Well, high level houses are going to have that. That's what we really need in all houses right now. But the air sealing is the most important thing. Tape windows, tape doors. You will be surprised, unfortunately, at how much your windows and doors leak.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you could see it from ash coming through the windows.
Right. And then if you have one more thing, if you have the ability, and it sounds kind of crazy, if you have the ability, put tape over your outlets on your exterior walls.
Oh.
Because most houses are insulated with fiberglass, and fiberglass will allow air to come straight through the walls and out those outlets and around baseboards and stuff. I mean, you can get really uptight about this stuff.
But that seems like a simple trick. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an interesting little thing you can do. That's nice to have control over.
So for the air, knowing all of that, if our kids are back in school, should they be outside? Should they be wearing a mask? Is that even helpful or not? Be honest with us, because we want someone to be honest.
So masks are always helpful. If there's ash in the air, there's definitely, you should be definitely wearing a mask. If there's ash not in the air, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be wearing a mask, right? Like really look at the AQI, look at the particulate readings, really focus most on the 0.25, the PM 2.5. That's the one you should care about. That's the particles that are so small that they fit between the cells of your lungs and go into your bloodstream and carry those toxins all around your body, right? So those are the ones you should care about. The other stuff is more of a nuisance. Your body does a fairly good job of getting rid of it by catching it in the mucus in our lungs and our throat and then expelling it out either through coughing or through like phlegm. So you actually pull it up out of your lungs, you swallow it, and it passes through your digestive tract. Not really a great place for it to go. You'd rather spit it up, honestly, but it's better than in your lungs and in your the rest of your body.
So if you were given like the opportunity to have your kids stay inside right now, even like around certain parts of Los Angeles that were affected by the fires, would you have your kids go to school and ask them to keep them inside? It's a hard question, I know.
We want the honest truth because, I don't know, it feels like nobody's really telling us.
Yeah.
I think we have to go back to two things. So first, at the beginning, Dr. Beck, you said, if you can even provide a little bit of normalcy to your kids,
right,
that's really important. And I couldn't agree more. And I think we have to also go back to what happened to our kids during COVID.
Yeah.
And they didn't prosper. And they didn't, they felt out of place and they missed a lot. Like I had kids that were graduating college and kids that were graduating high school at that time. Mm-hmm. And they missed, just think about in our lives, right? When we didn't have those things, about the events that we missed and that we enjoyed in our lives that our kids missed. And they seem pretty damn resilient now. Like it's pretty incredible, but the younger they are, the more they miss this stuff. Right. So, yes, there probably shouldn't be running around outside without masks on. But does that mean that they can't have those same kind of active events inside the house or, having parties where kids come over? And really now's a really good time to not wear shoes inside the house, right? Have a dedicated outdoor shoes and a dedicated indoor shoes. And if there's ash outside, change your clothes, wear jackets or pants, like change so that you're not bringing the outside toxins in, because that's I used to work when I was a scientist. I worked in a clean room, and we would literally have a line on the ground in our clean room, and we would undress, we would step over the line, and we get back dressed again after the line in completely different clothes. Now, you don't really need to do that.
They may or may not be setting that up after this.
Yeah.
I just picture Emily setting this.
I'm like, everyone behind the line.
So we should think about that though, right? Like, here's something you're probably not going to love the idea of, which is the average carpet. So just a wall-to-wall carpet, right? Average carpet is 7 times heavier when you take it out of your house than when you put it into your house.
Wow. I'm not a fan of carpet, but I didn't know that. Wow. 7 times heavier.
Right. So what is that? Exactly right. It's all the stuff that falls off of you and the dog and your clothes and comes in the air and settles. I mean, you guys live in LA. Like I've been through LA many, many times, right? Like you park your car outside and 2 days later, your brand new washed car looks like,
Yeah.
You should see the car now. Yeah.
So now imagine the fact that you cover your car and then you leave it outside for 7 years, right? Like that's all the stuff that falls into your carpet. So
Wow.
indoor air quality issues aren't just during fire season. They should be all the time, right?
Yeah.
In 22 years of doing this job, I've put carpet in one house ever. And we usually can convince people to not put carpet in, to put hardwood floor or tile or marmoleum or some easily washable hard surface that doesn't absorb stuff, and then put area rugs over things, right? So the people that are near the fires right now and haven't been doing really an effective job of keeping outside and inside, their carpets are going to be filled with garbage forever. And you're never going to get it out of there, right? Because a vacuum only vacuums the top 1/4 inch of your carpet, right? The rest of that 3/4 inch mat or nap is just there, right? And it never gets cleaned.
So the rugs at school.
Oh,
Yeah,
rugs at school. Can you like steam vacuum it? Does that get it out more?
it does. Professionally, right? They have those truck mounted vacuums, right? They have a much better. It's a much more powerful cleaning process. So yes, but it's not going to get all the way to the backing, right?
Yeah, that fact is just crazy to me. Another question is, are we supposed to circulate the air through the central like HVAC system or not?
Yeah. Like, do we run the heat or not? Or
Oh, that was a question with Emily and I this morning. I was like, don't run the heat.
FYI, I've been running the heat, which is probably really messed up.
Yeah. So let's think about this in the context of what type of house you live in, right? So when we build houses, we're building all electric houses, right? So there's no source of combustion. An all electric house takes heat from outside, it condenses it through something called a heat pump, which is the same operation as your refrigerator is, right?
Yeah.
Takes that energy and condenses it, runs it inside, and then releases that energy by blowing air over a coil like a radiator, right?
Mm.
So that type of system is not bringing anything outside to inside, right? Now, most houses don't have that. Most houses have what are called furnaces. And what a furnace does, and it depends on how old your house is and how old your furnace is, a sealed combustion furnace will light fuel on fire, typically gas here in California, will light that fuel on fire and then runs air through sealed chambers through the flame and through the exhaust of that combustion, right? So it's heating up the air as it's running through these sealed pipes.
If you guys can see Emily's face right now, sorry, just to bring a little humor
Oh, they
to this.
will.
I'm just okay. They will see her face. Sorry, just a little humor to it if we can. Her face. I love her.
Those types of systems are good. The non-sealed, so if your furnace is more than probably 15 or 20 years old, it's most likely a non-sealed combustion, which means they're blowing, they're burning the gas and then they're blowing air across the gas, right? So it's picking up a lot of the toxins and the particulates from the gas. Now, gas is pretty clean burning, so that's not your big source. But the reason I bring this up is A, you need to pay attention to that, but B, it is definitely more important where your furnace is and how your house was built. So most furnaces in California are in two places, the garage or the attic. I was going to do that, but I didn't want to put up that finger.
Sorry,
The garage or the attic, right?
Those two fingers are better. Yes.
Yeah. So the garage. So think about what we store in the garage.
Our cars.
Everything we don't want in the house, our cars, fuel, fire, gas cans, poisons,
Strollers.
toxins.
I feel like we put strollers in our garage.
Yeah. Like basically everything is too nasty to put inside your house. You put in the garage right next to your furnace, but then the furnace blows air through the garage. Your furnaces never are sealed enough so that air that gets blown through your furnace is sucking all the garage air and blowing it into your house.
So your
So that's
car.
been happening the whole time, right? Now
Wow.
your garage is especially dirty, which is even more catastrophic, right? Because now your garage is not air sealed. It's basically impossible. Garage doors are like large filters. They're like a MERV 0.001, right? Like it's basically, it stops things like dogs and, strollers and things like that from coming through. Everything else comes into your garage, right? So your garage is
Gotcha.
basically outside. So if you're
Okay.
running your furnace through your garage, I generally wouldn't run it right now. I would tell everybody to wear wool socks and jackets. And then when this whole thing settles
indoor
out,
socks and jackets.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then when this whole thing gets solved, like replace that furnace and get it out of your garage, because that's a horrible place to have a furnace, right? And get a heat pump. All electric heat pump will save you from all of these ills. Okay, so that's number one, is the garage. Horrible place to have a furnace. It's standard process in California. We're idiots. Europe's been doing this the right way for decades. So number two is the attic. So what do we know about the attics? So attics are the second dirtiest place. Well, maybe the third after the crawl space, because we also have furnaces or crawl space. So the attics are the second dirtiest places. But what do we know mostly about attics in California is what's called vented attics, which means that they are the primary source of where those embers come in. They go through the vents, land in the attic, and start the house on fire. If you'll notice from the pictures that we see on TV of the fires are not starting on the roofs. They're starting inside the houses. And they're starting inside the houses because of the vents. So the embers are the main source of fire. The embers come in the vents, land on the attic, and then start your insulation or your wood framing on fire. It burns inside the house, burns down, and the roof is largely intact the entire time. You see it over and over and over again. Flames blasting out the windows, blasting out the doors because they're getting air and they've broken the glass. And the roof is intact, right? So, if you're doing anything, and you can do this like fairly easily, and so there's a method of construction called the unvented attic assembly. And what it does is it essentially blocks all the vents in the perimeter of the house. And the vents are the screens below the roof overhang and at the top of the wall. So they're between what are called the rafters. And they look just like a screen that you would imagine like a crawl space vent, but they're at the top of the wall. So the reason we have those vents is to stop mold from growing in the tops of our attics. But they do a whole lot of harm. Mostly the vents do a whole lot of harm, mostly because they are basically a short circuit through your windows and doors and into your house. So imagine this, the bad smoke, the air, the particulates, all of that comes in those vents, goes into your attic, goes down through your can lights, which are most likely sticking up above the insulation, and can lights are not air sealed, and right into your house, right? So, and that's typically where people are putting in their furnaces, or where companies are putting your furnaces, and you're running all of your ducts through the furnace. Ducts are not air sealed. There's a law in California that mandates that ducts and furnace insulations have to be tested to 6% duct leakage. So 6%, that's like going to the gas station and you have a 20-gallon tank and putting, a gallon and a half on the ground, and then filling the rest in your tank, right? It's like 6% is a ton of leakage. And that's a really good insulation, and 99% of furnace installers are not testing their systems, and inspections never test for duct leakage. It's a law without any backing. It's really important for air quality. So to get back to your question, no, unless your furnace is inside the house, and that's another problem. Like, I wouldn't generally run your furnaces now at all. If you're anywhere within the smoke area, I would air seal your house. If you have a ladder and somebody that's stable on a ladder, I would go up and I would block all of the vents in your attic, going into your attic. If you're in a fire area, this sucks, right? So if you're in a fire area, or you're maybe
Can we qualify that? Because I think that's what's confusing, is like the radius.
Yeah, what is the radius? Like, does Orange County count? Like, who's included in this? That's what a lot of people ask.
Let me put it this way. A week and a half ago, so I had a house in Santa Cruz near 3 blocks from the beach, but Santa Cruz mountains light on fire every few years, right? And my business partner has a house in Santa Cruz mountains, and we're building essentially a steel bunker of a house in the Santa Cruz mountains, because everybody knows the Santa Cruz mountains burn, right? And in my house, it's 3 blocks away from the beach, and maybe a mile and a half from UC Santa Cruz and in this community, right, of houses called the West End. I built my house fire safe, but I never worried about it burning because it's in a community, right? It's in a neighborhood. Like, and then
Like
LA happened.
Palisades or Altadena, like, you never think.
Exactly right. And now, like, it's like COVID, right? We have to rethink everything that we assumed to be true. And so, to get back to your question, who the hell knows? Like, I certainly don't know. Like, what is fire area? If you're within 5 miles of the mountains and the brush, like, is that reasonable anymore? Like, good God. I mean, we have to change the way we think about everything. The closer you are to the mountains, the more likely your house is to start on fire. And, another fire started last night. So now there's 6 fires in LA, right? So I don't think anything should be taken as a given right now. I don't think we should consider ourselves safe just because we're 3 miles away. Like, I think we have to be more proactive than reactive.
There's no harm in being a little bit proactive. I think I agree. I mean, Emily covered all this.
Well, I turned the heat on, so I'm screwed. But
No, she's fine. No, but she covered, and she was the producer, like, during, like, the 9/11 disasters, and, like, when yeah.
yeah, I mean, I've covered a lot of the stories of the firefighters after 9/11 with the air quality. So that's definitely one of the things that concerns me is the long-term effects. Like, we see the pictures from 9/11 of those firefighters standing there with the masks around their neck. Like, they never really wore them. They were given them, but then they were told the air was clean. And we're being told the air is clean here. By all accounts, it looks clean. We don't smell smoke, like you mentioned. Is it truly clean? I don't know. And what scares a lot of people.
So think about this. Smoke, the smell of smoke is an olfactory response, right? So the chemical characteristics of a molecule that makes it smell are not the same characteristics of a molecule that makes it toxic, right? So your smell is a good prelude, but it is not the defining characteristic, right? The energy monitoring systems, many of them have a PM 2.5 detection, right? Like, buy those. They're like $50. You can buy them for $500. They detect more things. I would buy a more expensive one if I was you. Like, I mean, like, we have them in our house. It is very important to detect PM 2.5 and VOCs right now. If you live near a freeway, you're constantly getting bombarded by PM 2.5, right? Like, it is.
Emily's like, I live near a freeway.
Just checking all the boxes today.
Sulfur dioxide, PM 2.5, those are diesel exhaust, right? Literally, you're getting hammered by them all the time. So the farther away from roadways, airports, shipping areas, like, Long Beach just gets hammered by that stuff, right? All of that is super important. We need to be more cognizant on indoor air quality issues than we have been. The fires kind of galvanized everybody. The point is that we have to be proactive. We can't depend on our noses to tell us something, because it's not going to tell us if there's PM 2.5 in the air. That's not an olfactory sensitivity, right? But one thing I wanted to get back to, which was the attic venting. So if I was living in LA and I was anywhere near the outlying areas or anywhere near where there was fires, the number one thing I would do to secure my house, besides potentially putting sprinklers on the roof, which is actually shown to be very effective if you have water pressure, is to block your roof vents, right? And your crawl space vents. Now, that means you need to buy a non-flammable material, and you could get thick plywood to do it. I would prefer, I think it would be better if you went like to Home Depot and bought just a single sheet of fiber cement siding, right? And get somebody with a fiber cement saw, and that stuff, everything you do is kind of toxic. So fiber cement, if you use the wrong blade, and even if you use the right blade, it produces particulates called silica. And silica is a respiratory carcinogen. So you want to protect that. You'll see the stories about these countertop guys that have been sanding these countertops, especially east of you guys and that silicosis that they're getting is like super toxic. You get the same thing from fiber cement. But if you have a handy person or something, Home Depot has fiber cement blades on a skill saw or circular saw, anything like that. Just cut pieces that are the width of your vents and the height of your vents and go up there and screw them into your wall, that will, I mean, it is insane how much that's going to protect your house.
Hmm.
Literally, it will cost you $40 for the one sheet of 4x8 fiber cement or smaller pieces, whatever, but it doesn't matter. And you'll spend, probably do my house. My house is an unvented attic assembly. I could probably do a normal house in 2 to 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
This is real. This is a real way to stop those embers from coming in your attic. Like, this is real stuff.
So if you have a home garden, which Natasha always encourages families to do, let's just assume you even have on your patio a few plants. What are you doing? Getting rid of all that? Is there a way to clean your garden? I assume not.
So I think it depends on what you're growing. If you're growing root crops, then I think you're okay, especially now. If you're growing a fruit or a vegetable with a thick skin, I think cleaning it is fine. You could still eat the core. It's not going to get into that fruit or that vegetable yet. If you're thinking about things like apples and, zucchini or something like that, I think you can clean them and consume them as you would. Things like strawberries, probably not. Right? You're eating the whole thing. It's got a lot of variegations in the outside. So there's a lot of little nooks and crannies for all that stuff to kind of fall into. As far as long-term, yeah, I mean, that stuff's in your soil. Unless you want to pull off the top 2 inches of your entire garden and put it in a landfill, it's going to get in. And if you don't do that before it rains again, it's going to soak into the ground. Does that mean that you shouldn't eat that fruit? I'm not an expert in botany and the availability of those toxins and things like that to get into different food crops. I think that that's a different expert, but I certainly think it's something we should think about.
So if you find yourself exposed to the fires, which so many people are, and develop a cough, like what are things you can do? I think I have a friend who is a psychologist for the LA Fire Department, and she took off her mask, and she's now got this horrendous cough. And she was out there at the command center.
So cough is your body's natural mechanism for getting rid of debris in your lungs. So the effect of having the fact of having a cough is not great. It's uncomfortable and everything else. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have some kind of long-term illness. If it continues for a long time, then that's obviously something to be worried about. I would be more concerned about the chemicals that were respirated when you're actively in the fires. And there's a statistic, and I haven't done the research, but I've heard this multiple times. There's a statistic that says that most firefighters don't live more than 7 years past when they retire. For a variety of reasons, not least of which is all the crap that they inhale through their careers. It's a terrible price to pay for our safety.
Yeah. And our firefighters right now, they are our heroes. We thank them, and they are doing such incredible work. And it's something that, like, it's so comforting to say to our kids, I say to them all the time, look at all those helpers, look at those firefighters, look at those volunteers. And
They're the ones who run in when everybody else runs out. It's incredible.
yeah.
As far as your lungs, like, we evolutionarily, our bodies are used to fires. Fires are a natural process, right? So the challenge, so if we think about evolution, and how our organisms have evolved over time. They've evolved over time to deal with the things that are naturally occurring. They've not evolved over time to deal with the things that are not naturally occurring. So naturally occurring things are like forest fires and brush fires and bears and, saber-toothed tigers. They are not, like, the reason asbestos is such a toxic material is because the fibers are so small that our bodies aren't dealt with dealing with fibers that small. So they end up getting into our cells and causing inflammation, which leads to asbestosis and then these chronic and often lethal diseases, right? Our bodies are not used to dealing with all of the organic compounds that are in modern houses, right? The
Can you
plastics.
talk about some of the organic compounds? Because I think that would be helpful for people to understand.
As a builder and as a biochemist, that's a really crappy background to have. When one of your jobs is to look at all the compounds that are in the building materials that people specify for the houses. And what you find is that building materials companies are not here for you, and they're not here to protect you. They're here to produce a product as cheaply as they can and make the most money possible for their shareholders, right? So if you go into a remodel or a building process or an improvement process or whatever with the idea that everybody's out to get you, that's probably a pretty safe place to start. So what does that mean for our houses? Our houses are filled with toxic crap, and the toxic crap becomes way more toxic when it gets burned. So PVC, which many people, especially not in California as much, but many people use for the siding on their houses, right? We use it for plumbing pipes and flooring and all this stuff. When it burns, it produces a chemical called dioxin. Dioxin attaches to PM 2.5, right?
Wow.
So now we have the most toxic chemical man has ever created attaching to the most toxic particulate that we know about. And the two of them combine and they go into your body and cause all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So these houses that have burned are toxic waste dumps. Let's just address it as it is. You should not go there without personal protective equipment. They have to deal with the soil, and like all of that stuff gets trucked off and dumped into toxic waste landfills, right? Like literally it is a bad place to be. So walking there, doing all that stuff, like don't ever take that clothing or those shoes into your house again. That is not a safe place. And
That's the question. Like, if someone's home survived, can you take those clothes and wash them, or is it basically?
I would not. I would take anything that's porous, that's not a hard surface, and tear it off and throw it away. Couches, carpets, anything that has a texture that can't be easily cleaned, I would get rid of it. And that's even worse for everybody, right? For the world, for you, because you have to buy new stuff, all this. But if you can't clean it, the only other alternative is to seal it and then deodorize it. So we've dealt with fire projects before where we basically scrape the entire inside of the house. The only thing we leave is the framing. Then we seal the framing with essentially a really thick kind of paint, seal it, and then deodorize the whole thing. And that's just the framing, the foundation.
I mean, but insurance isn't covering any of that, right?
So I'm not an insurance person, but it still should be considered a loss because your house was not in the same condition as it was at the end. And now your house is a toxic soup of chemicals.
Back to these chemicals being in the air. Is there anything, Natasha, like these respiratory drops or the chlorophyll? Like, I'm trying to find some hope that people are taking that does help counteract some of that.
Well, I think you spoke to that, David, like certain things, like steps you can take, sealing your windows, not recirculating your air, not turning on the heater, making sure you leave your shoes outside, having a separate jacket that you wear outside that you keep outside. You change your clothes when you get inside. Like I had told my sister, like if she had to wash the clothes right away, get in the shower. So you shower everything off, because if there's ash on you, it helps to shower it off right away. Those are like little steps you can take.
If you have like a waterproof jacket or something like that, you could probably wash that fairly effectively and get rid of all those toxins. It's the porous stuff that can't be washed very easily. Maybe clothes, you should probably talk to a person that deals with that kind of stuff. But like furniture, carpets, things like that, you can't do wall-to-wall carpet, but like area rugs, you can certainly take them to a place to get washed, and they use high pressure hoses and stuff like that. I mean, those places are specifically designed for that. At a certain point, though, we need to be talking not just about how we deal with what we have now, but how we get back to where we.
Yes. Great point.
Great point.
That's probably, another conversation in the future, because it's Like,
What's the timeline?
well, so I don't know if you just saw, and Gavin Newsom just suspended environmental review for new housing. I can personally tell you, the Bay Area, the permitting process is an absolute nightmare. It can take 15 months to 2 years to get a new house permit. Even if you suspend the environmental review, the housing districts and the cities and the towns and the counties just aren't set up for processing this effectively. It's going to be even worse when 20,000 of them descend
Come
on
in at the same
small
time.
areas.
Yeah.
But then we need to think about how we best prepare for the future. And really the way that we best prepare for the future is that we pay attention to what just happened, and then we make sure that that never happens to us again. So when you look at the aerial pictures, you see the occasional house standing. We have to
Yeah.
ask why, right? Why was that house the lucky house, right? Or why were those owners the lucky owners, right? And it's not because they were lucky. It's because the house was built in a certain way that made it less prone to fire. And we know how to do that. And it does not mean we have to live in a concrete bunker. It does not mean that we have to live in some ugly house with no windows. Like, we know how to do this well. Like,
What do you use? I'm curious.
what do I use?
Like, what's the building material that of the future if it's not concrete?
I wish I could say it was one thing. It's not. It goes into the entire design. It goes into the entire. It's called building resiliency. It's materials, it's systems, it's details. It's how we design the roof. It's how we design the attics, and it's the fresh air systems and the air filtration systems and the heating and cooling systems. Like, we know how to build a house that won't light on fire, that doesn't cost a gosh awful amount of money. Like, we
I
know how
think
to
that's
do.
hopeful to hear so that when people go through this, and I think we'll hopefully later on down the road, we'll have you back on to discuss some of these things that you can take and these, steps that you can take and measures you can do. I think that would be really helpful.
When we look at a code built house and we compare it to the kind of houses that we build, which are these what are called passive houses, so fire and smoke resilient passive houses, so zero energy, zero carbon. The difference is between 3 and 4% cost. So ask every one of those people who just lost their house if they would have spent 4% more and still have their house. Would they have done that, right? I would bet you that pretty much every one of them would said, hell yes, right? Like, so this is not rocket science anymore. It's what most people don't know how to do, unfortunately. The building industry is resistant to change. There are people out there that believe in this and that can help you do this. They're out there. I encourage people to look them up and to share the knowledge. And honestly, like, this is a market economy, right? The more people that ask for fire safe, resilient houses that are smoke tight and that can withstand this fire, the more people are going to learn how to do it. The more people are going to value it and get that training. The training is, it's a lifetime of training. You get better and better at doing it, but it's not something that is out of the budget for most people, out of the skill set for most people. It's just thinking about things differently.
This has been so incredibly helpful, David. We are so appreciative that you came on and spent so much of your time. And I know you were so incredibly busy, but thank you again. And for everyone out there, David is such an expert at Earthbound Homes. So we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, David. So helpful.
My heart goes out to you guys, everybody.